I would like to welcome everyone to Palmer High School tonight for tonight's Mass DOT Planning and Design Information Meeting. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brad Brothers. I'm the town manager here currently in Palmer. I'm a proud Palmer graduate and resident of the community. In speaking with Mass DOT, they were very thankful and impressed with the quality of community feedback regarding the station design from the December meeting. And now we are excited to see the feedback translated into the station's conceptual design. We appreciate your continued interest in the Palmer Passenger Rail Project as we move forward to the potential stop here in town. And I would like to introduce and turn the meeting over to the moderator for tonight, Nancy Farrell.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brad. And we really look forward to hearing from you at the end of the meeting. And we've set up the meeting to try to be efficient and to honor everyone's time. So you had the opportunity when you came in to sign in to speak. And so I will, at the end of the presentation, I will call those names as the first speakers. After that, you're welcome to indicate that you want to speak by coming to one of these microphones, and we'll make them closer to the aisles at that point. And we're asking everyone to speak for 3 minutes. Now, that sounds like a short period of time. It's actually quite a long period of time. You can speak for 3 minutes. We'll let you know with a little beeper at the end of that time. And if you want to speak again when everyone else is finished and you have something you didn't have an opportunity to say, we will invite you to come back up again. In the meantime, there are also comment sheets at the front desk, and you are invited to make written comments, and you can also email comments on the project to MassDOT. Okay? So what's going to happen tonight? We have a presentation. Andy Kojo from MassDOT is going to talk a little bit about some of the technical issues or the administrative issues. He said that he's the least fun, so hold on for the fun. Natasha Velikovic from VHB is going to actually talk about the conceptual design, and then at the end talk about next steps for the project. So I hope it's clear to everyone. The comment forms are available for you. You can go out and get one now and fill it out during the presentation if you like, or at the end of the meeting we'll be waiting to collect them and put them in the table that's in the box that's on the table. The presentation will be available on the website. Take us a day or so sometimes, but you can take a look at it again and you can share it with anyone who might else be interested. So I think that's about it. We're going to start the presentation. Thank you for coming on a lovely fall evening, and I hope that you are interested, and if you have something to say, if you have comments, if you want to share them with us, please do at the end of the presentation. Andy?
Well, hello everybody, and good evening. As Nancy mentioned, my name is Andy Kojo. I'm the West East Rail Director in the Massachusetts Department of Transportation in the Rail and Transit Division. I want to thank you for having me and the project team back out to Palmer to discuss a potential future rail station. I think we have some encouraging information to bring today, and namely a feasible station concept and a strategy for project implementation. So the design we're sharing is a result of a lot of technical analysis and stakeholder coordination that's occurred over the last year and a half. And it's also a lot of reflective of the public feedback that we've received either in person or through email communications. Excuse me. And tonight you're going to see some diagrams and images that will depict what a station could look like, and we'll aim to put that station into the context of the town and the region. So my hope is that you'll share your thoughts on what you see in this presentation tonight, and then we're going to take that feedback and use it to develop our final conceptual design for the project. So as Nancy mentioned, there's a few means to stay in touch or let us know how you're feeling about this project. It's going to be the live Q&A, written comments out there, or email me over the next month, and we'll make sure to incorporate your feedback. So for tonight's agenda, I'm going to start by just giving a high-level overview of the project and the Massachusetts vision for intercity passenger rail in general. From there, Natasha Volkovic, the project manager from the consultant team, is going to give some regional context by looking at the transportation network and some of the real estate considerations. Next, Natasha will show the draft conceptual design. And this is really the heart of tonight's presentation and where we're really looking to get a lot of feedback. And I believe that these renderings are really going to help you get a sense of what it could look like to have a new rail station here in Palmer. At the end, I'll walk through some anticipated next steps, and that's where we'll talk about the strategy that we are formulating for getting to project implementation. And then end with the Q&A that Nancy mentioned. So Massachusetts has a vision for intercity passenger rail, and it's called Compass Rail. So intercity passenger rail, just to clarify, it's a little bit different than like commuter rail, like MBTA that you see around the Boston area. Intercity rail is typically distinguished by more longer distance trains, express, fewer stops, but also less frequency as well. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the services that might come to Palmer. And these services are typically, at least in the New England area, Amtrak operated. So Compass Rail combines existing passenger rail, intercity passenger rail services, along with proposed services. So on this map that's behind me, these green lines, if you can see the vertical lines from bottom to top, those are actual services that exist today, Amtrak operated, that are supported by Massachusetts. This is like the Valley Flyer or the Vermonter or Amtrak's Hartford Line services. On the left side of the screen is in yellow, it's the Berkshire Flyer. This is a seasonal service that MassDOT supports that operates from New York City to Pittsfield. But these two lines in red and blue, this is what we refer to as the West-East Rail component of Compass Rail. So the inland route in red, this is a service that is happening. MassDOT has a $108 million grant to design and construct track work between Springfield and Worcester that will enable 2 passenger rail round trips to start by 2030. So this service will be coming, and this is a potential service that would stop here in Palmer should a station be built. This second line in blue, the Boston to Albany corridor, that's another route that we're looking at right now. And this route it's a part of a federal program right now. It got accepted into a federal program called the Corridor ID program. And really what this is, it's a pipeline step where we go from planning to design to implementation. Together with the Federal Railroad Administration. So we're already in the program. We're already about to start the second step. So we have optimism that that route is also moving forward. So West East Rail is coming in some form or another in the near term, and it could be expanding in the future. At the beginning of this process, we established project purpose. The project purpose is to identify a new passenger rail station along the proposed Compass Rail corridor serving the town of Palmer and surrounding communities that will enhance mobility and connectivity, support local planning goals, and drive economic development. This purpose statement has been guiding our efforts to date, and I think that you'll see these principles shine through our final concept. More specifically, though, or more directly, the purpose of this effort was to develop a feasible station concept that met engineering criteria and operator requirements, and also supported those local planning goals. So the end product that we're nearing is a feasible concept that can be held up for public scrutiny and evaluated for next steps. So tonight is not an announcement that we've designed a station and we're moving into construction. It's an announcement that we were able to identify an appropriate site and develop a feasible station concept that could work in Palmer. So should the evaluation of the concept be positive, the next steps would include efforts like strategizing for funding and working with private property owners. So while we've made significant progress on this study, there are still many steps towards making the station a reality. So I do want to take a moment to recognize the steering committee members that have been involved since the beginning. These members have spent dozens of hours participating in meetings and also reading documents and providing insightful feedback. I believe that all of their participation has made this project a lot better. So thank you to Brad, Heidi, Mike, John, Carl, Dave, Gary, and Ben. Yes, absolutely. So briefly, before we get to the primary content of the meeting, I wanted to share what's been happening since we were last here in Palmer in December. So the site selection process was completed and a preferred site was announced in January. Since then, planning activities have occurred for transportation, like taking traffic counts out on the street and meeting with different partners like the bus operator, PBTA. MassDOT held a series of focus groups for real estate professionals and developers in the area to support the market analysis that we have ongoing. And then a conceptual design was developed with the support of technical efforts like survey out on the railways. So I'm going to invite Natasha Velikovic up here now, who will provide a little more detail on some of these efforts that have occurred. Thank you.
All right. So thanks again to all of you for taking the time to hear us tonight and see some of the visuals that we have been working on over the last year and more. We're very excited about where we have arrived in that span of time, and we are looking forward to advancing this beyond this point, but there's a number of things that we want to inform you on in how we have arrived to where we are today. So one of the things that I want to highlight in the technical concept of what has become the conceptual design for Palmer Station is that there are a lot of things that inform what it is that we need to design. One of it is the transportation network. The other is economic potential, because if you go back to the purpose statement, a lot of what we're doing, any sort of transportation investment, is an economic investment into the future of what that transportation investment is going to do to help grow what is possible in the market drivers for the region. So I want to enforce that in what the concept that we have developed. A lot of what we are doing here is informed specifically by the transportation network and the economic opportunity. So starting out with the transportation network, excuse me, I advanced too quickly. We needed to understand the kind of the baseline of the roadway system and the access opportunity that we had with the site that was selected through the alternatives analysis. Where were some of our pinch points? What was some of the congestion that we needed to be aware of when we were planning out how folks would be accessing this particular site? And as we were expanding that view, were there opportunities and good opportunities that we can accommodate as a multimodal facility, because this isn't just a train station, it's a connector to a lot of things, not just locally in downtown Palmer, but also the region with the colleges and the recreation opportunities that are available within this heart of the state. So that transportation network was very important to us in establishing what it is that we needed to do and be aware of when we were laying a footprint of a station design within the context of what Palmer is today. So that network and understanding and the connection to the Depot Village was very important to that perspective. The other thing that we needed to understand was in peak periods, traffic is a perpetual sensitivity to communities, and we wanted to know how much of our station was actually going to degrade areas of the town that are already congested and that you already experience. And we were evaluating this from a conservative perspective, not because we actually believe that our station is going to be operating during peak periods, but because we needed to know in the case that a train ever did arrive at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, what would that look like in terms of the congestion that already exists and how you experience it downtown. So all of those transportation lenses needed to be on how we were going to lay our footprint into the space of what we had. So what we had what we had determined is that with a station of this size and the service plan that we are targeting, that starts with 2 round trips a day and up to 5 round trips a day, we were really only ever getting up to about 18,000 riders annually, which as you break it down to monthly ridership and daily ridership, the peak experience of something like that was actually going to be pretty minimal in terms of how that would translate into further degradation on your existing roadway network. So we needed to validate that through our transportation analysis. The other thing that we needed to do was to see whether or not there was a configuration under which our site could provide not just a vehicular access, but a pedestrian, bicycle, and multimodal connection to some of the shuttles that could be coming from the 5 colleges, and PVTA as the regional transit operator. So those elements needed to be informing the design and the layout of what we were configuring. So the other thing, the other lens that was very important to us is the economic potential. So when we were evaluating the investment of a transit facility, of a passenger rail facility, excuse me, we needed to understand the land use and that it was appropriate for the land use that we were coming into, and that the market trends and the market drivers for what sort of development was possible in the region and was demanded in the region was going to translate into something that could become a leaping off point from the investment that was the station itself. So that market analysis was certainly done from a desktop review from the professionals and the economists that actually evaluate this type of potential from their individual professional assessments, but we didn't do it in a silo. We actually had a number of local representatives that helped us through a series of roundtables inform what it is that we needed to be aware of for the market that is Palmer and its surrounding regions. And it included kind of a regional roundtable from the 5 college consortium, senior planners from Amherst itself, Belchertown, Brookfield, Wilbraham, and real estate developers for the region that could help us understand where we had the greatest driver in what this station could do, either on the site or in the adjacent areas that would be the spur of development. Local businesses and institutional roundtables also included the Quabog Hills Chamber of Commerce, the Three Rivers Chamber of Commerce, the Ware Business and Civic Association, just to name a few. I just want to give you a perspective that this wasn't a desk review that was ours. It was taken with the perspective of local representation who understands the region and understands the potential and understands the desire and the drivers that are from here specifically. So with that, we had some outcomes. We know that a development like this of a station will drive unlock ridership demand, latent demand that already exists in these communities. It's waiting for a station like this and will greatly benefit from a service once it is open. And that we were looking for policies to reinforce into the plan so that it's not just a station project, but it is a readying position for what happens after the station is open that would unlock that potential and those opportunities. So all of this was to take us into the space of what is our actual informed by local representation into our conceptual design. So I'm going to start out from kind of the things that we had not a lot of control of because the industry governs some of the criteria that we have to adhere to, and then some of the things that we could inform, like material selection and access points and the orientation of the site itself. So the thing at the very top, which is Amtrak's and CSX's standards and criteria, those are elements that are outside of the opinion pool, if you will, on what would be the right solution for Palmer. So there are guiding principles on what we need to do to preserve freight operation through these corridors. So our station siding that would be provided from that, and our station platform that would be provided off of that siding. Those are the criteria that are set in stone by our criteria limits. There are elements, however, that can be informed by the local stamp and context, like station materials and design elements. Amtrak's guidelines for a station of this level of ridership also gives us a set of recommendations, if you will, on the types of things that a station of this size and level of service should be providing in terms of canopies, information, restrooms to some extent, and things of that sort. So in the hierarchy of what we can inform, Amtrak and CSX standards were our guiding principle. We also heard you in December. We had a great opportunity to speak to a lot of you at that public meeting so that you could tell us what was most important to you. And this is just a highlight of some of those, but there were certainly other elements that we took into consideration as well that didn't make this top 6 list. So the enhanced user experience was top and center. We needed to make sure that this was a pleasant facility, that it was welcoming, that there was a gateway, that there was everything about it that made you feel like you were a part of something and that you were transitioning to something that was a passenger rail service. The sustainability and durability of a facility, we needed to make sure that we were providing a station that didn't have to be replaced in short order because the material selection was poor, that we needed to source local materials because Buy America is important. All of those things needed to be incorporated into what we were representing from the onset so that this would be a generational station that we would be proud of, that you would be and we would be. The connection to some of the local information, whether it's to the colleges or to the recreational options, that needed to be front and center in how we were communicated. The user experience to they're not coming to the station as a node. That is just their connecting point to things in the region that they're accessing and trying to get to. So that informational context needed to be present. Highlighting the town's history, there's the fabric of it here, and making sure that our design was not only respectful of it, but complementing it in ways that was incorporated into the choices that we made, and the canopies and how they were designed, and the transition plazas and the platforms and how they were laid out. All of that had to be taken into context of the town's history and the region's history. Preserving developable space was very important to us as well because the parcel that we were going to was frankly larger than we needed it to be. The number of parking spaces and the multimodal connections that we needed to provide and the platform size and all of the other supporting facilities of the station itself. It was more than the 3 acres that we had on the site that we were going to. So how are we going to make everything fit with the program that we were providing so that we were maximizing the amount of space that we would preserve for what would happen next? And all of that was part of our layout and back and forth with the committee in trying to figure out the best way to make ourselves work with the future of what would happen there. And last thing that I want to highlight is the ability to see the station from South Main Street was also very important to everyone because you wanted to be able to arrive at something, for it to provide a gateway to the facility that you would be experiencing, that the passengers of Palmer Station would be experiencing, that would be front and center, and the viewport for that would be available from South Main Street as at a starting point. So maintaining those sight lines and providing that gateway access to the station was definitely part of the back and forth in what we ultimately ended up on. So I do just want to, I know we've seen elements of this before, but I do want to just help highlight again that there's a number of things that were governing our layout, one of which was the maintenance of freight movement through this corridor and the yard where CSX interchanges. Maintaining that in whatever configuration we proposed was definitely of utmost importance. So what you see in, I'm going to step away from the mic for just one second. In this orange is, what you see in that orange is the station siding that pulls us off of the main line in order for that freight movement to be preserved. This is a critical point in CSX interchange with the movement of goods that move the economy through this region. So making sure that our concept did not interfere with that was very much one of the more important aspects of how we were laying out our plan. I can speak louder, sorry. I think the volume is set. Yes, absolutely. The station platform is the other thing that you see in this, with the 800 feet that we were proposing with full high-level access to accommodate the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is an ADA accessibility requirement that we have to reach the level of standard and care for anyone, for full access from any train vehicle, from any cabin, at full level boarding. So that 800-foot platform was the standard and of care that was provided from the track side. Then we started moving our way, to the station elements itself. And what you're going to see first is a transition plaza that gets us from the parking area over to the platform. There are a lot of features and elements incorporated into that transition plaza that is part of that user experience. And then the multimodal access that you see in the configuration of the parking lot itself that provide a lot of that, the pedestrian, bicycle, I'm fast forwarding here. The user experience. So I'm going to make my way around the layout of the station parking area and transition plaza and platform in a clockwise motion here in terms of how it's laid out on this site plan. The transition plaza, as I explained, is a space where you experience the station for the first time as a passenger on foot. So a lot of those features that are incorporated in there are part of that enhanced user experience. We have accessible parking spaces that are the most proximate to the point at which they are going to be catching their the train and the service. And those are, right now, they're at a count of 6, which is above and beyond what is actually required for the number of parking spaces for the total count that we have. So this is a back and forth that we can massage. But right now, we know that in the space that we have, we can accommodate those 6, which is great. We have a dedicated bus pickup and drop-off area specifically for PVTA and other shuttle providers that would and could be coming to the station. And that was coordinated directly with PVTA, so the spatial requirement of it is for their vehicles, which are larger than some of the smaller shuttle providers. We have a shared pedestrian and bike path coming into the station from the eastern edge of the site, and a vehicular access coming in from the eastern edge of the site as well. On the western edge of the site, which is, again, moving my way clockwise through the layout of the plan, we now have areas that are dedicated for stormwater retention and management before we connect into what will be an outlet from the drainage from the site to the street network, and a pedestrian sidewalk from the western edge as well, which allows connections on from South Main Street from both sides accessing this particular site, so that people are not forced to one access point. They could come at it from both the east and the west. The number of vehicle parking spaces that we have striped out in this concept is 54, which is above and beyond what we need based on the projections that we have from the ridership base or ridership modeling that we have estimated. But it's a good starting point for what we know we could expand into if we are looking to expand to that level of that demand, which would be a great story. We have also dedicated pickup and drop-off area for passengers who would be arriving in personal vehicles, and the gravitational pull of folks coming into a facility like this is to get their pickup and drop off as close as possible to the actual point of a train service. So we are respecting that gravitational pull and are giving them the space that they would naturally gravitate to as a user of the facility. And then Andy's going to talk about the potential of the building on the site, but right now we are showing a restroom and maintenance support facility that is also part of this configuration. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. I don't know why it's advancing like that, excuse me. Emily, thank you. I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide for two reasons. One is a concept design at this level. It's there to serve a couple of purposes. One is to develop a program of everything that is required to build out a facility of this footprint, of its needs, and supporting elements. So what we do when we lay it out to that extent, we need to understand what all of those program elements are going to cost. And the reason why we develop it at such an early stage of concept design is we need to understand what it is that we are targeting for investments, not just for construction, but there are delivery investments that need to be made along the way that start with, from concept design, the next level would be preliminary engineering and NEPA documentation as part of the federal environmental review process. There are foster account agreements that we would need to create with CSX, the owner and operator of the corridor, and how they would review and participate in the development of our designs, and potentially provide the labor for some of the construction of railroad elements. There are what on this bar chart are called design and permitting elements. This is what happens for the package that is advanced for final design once you actually get through some of these other phases of project evolution. Final design and packaging and permitting for construction is that 18-month process. That is still one of the next steps. And then you get into the procurement of a contractor and the actual construction, which is another 18 months. So before you get to a phase of commissioning and testing the service and opening it out for operation, there are a number of steps that are taken in order for us to get to a train that we can hop on in Palmer. So this timeline of 5 years is conservative. We acknowledge that, and there are definitely there's room for overlap between some of these implementation stages, but in terms of setting an expectation for how many additional steps still need to be taken, 5 years is a good frame of reference, and an order of magnitude cost estimate of $25 to $35 million to actually get this station to a point of service. So now I want to take you through some of the visuals. I'm going to take you from kind of the access points, and you've seen some of these visuals out of the boards when you were walking in, but I'll give you a larger view up on screen right here. Coming at it from South Main Street, from the western edge of the site, this is the sidewalk that I was talking about that we would be able to access the station from, and you'll see excuse me, I'm going to just turn this way. You'll see the station building with the restrooms and the supporting function facility right there on just beyond view, beyond that tree, and a station trellis canopy structure welcoming elements of the facility to the users and passengers. From the eastern edge of the same view from South Main Street, you have that Palmer Station sign with both Amtrak and PVTA proudly represented for multimodal connection in Palmer, with tree lining both the eastern and western edge to give the right contextual presence of where we are in Massachusetts. My goodness. All right. Now, coming to the PVTA bus stop, we have an actual dedicated location for where that interchange would happen with PVTA bus shelter, specifically on that eastern edge, with close proximity to the service that is just beyond it on the platform, beyond the accessible parking. And then from the transition plaza, this is the space that I've been mentioning, is that understanding that you have arrived and that this is a station that is served by the PVTA, by Amtrak, by having the right canopy structures for the level of protection and the trellis that gives you a little bit more of kind of a contextual difference and different feel between the different areas of where we would be within that transition plaza, and certainly accommodations for bicycle parking for users that do come and use the facility as from that type and mode. And then this from the southeastern edge of the parking lot, you see that that layout represented as well. What you see here in a lot of these rendered views is a lot of vegetation. It was very important to the committee that this wasn't pavement, that this was contextually honoring the landscape of the region, and that vegetation was important to that representation. And these are not species that have been selected per se, but they are representations that something will be done in the space of landscaping for the parking area. This perspective is the one facing the trellis head-on from the edge of the crosswalk that cuts the middle of the parking area. It breaks up some of the parking space layout with a feature that makes it a human scale and something that is more sizable to the number of users who will be driving to the station. I'll be sensitive. And this is the perspective that shows us the active pickup and drop-off area from the northwesternmost edge. You'll see the station, the building, which we're calling the building, but it's really just a closet and restrooms that gives us that other and last view into the station from the angle of this corner where people will be actively picked up and dropped off. In this last view, which is a superimposed site layout onto the site that we have been laying all of this out, is there to give us spatial and scaled representation of once we actually get all of this program into and onto the site that we are working on, how much of that land is going to be left over for whatever comes next. And it's not MassDOT or VHB's position to presume what that would be. We just needed to make sure that whatever we were doing, we were landing in the space of that is left for what's to come. So in the approximately 3 acres that we were looking at on this site, roughly 40% of that will be left over for future development. For future development. I'm going to transition now back to Andy to talk to us a little bit about some of the next steps.
So first, before I get into the next steps, I just did want to address the building, as Natasha mentioned. So for a station like this with the anticipated ridership where it's at, it would be atypical to include a building. So we were kind of in a position where, like, in this level of conceptual design, do we show a building right now or not? We decided to show it to make sure that, because it's always easier to take out than put back in later, but and make sure that so we don't preclude it. But in general, MassDOT does not own and maintain buildings for like a bathroom setting, like at a station. Most Compass Rail stations actually have the fortune of being co-located with other transit facilities, whether it's Pittsfield, Springfield, Greenfield, where there's already an adjacent station. So it's not unusual to have these shared facilities. Natasha mentioned earlier too that Amtrak has a categorization of stations. So this one being anticipated under 20,000 riders per year, it would be a category 4. So that's the least intensive category. So we can be sure that Amtrak would have no intention to staff the station. So it wouldn't, and instead rely things on like online ticketing and using your mobile phone for those purposes. So I would say right now it would be atypical for MassDOT to move this forward with a station building, a facility, indoor facility. And that doesn't mean it's not possible, but in these situations, it would typically come from either some sort of third party, private party from the local level to make that push for some sort of structure like that. So moving on to the next step. So with tonight's feedback, the plan is by the end of this year to develop and publish our conceptual design report. So that report will show the proposed station concept and describe the steps that were taken to get to that point, provide the justification. The report's going to be supplemented by some other additional documents like a traffic impact assessment, some of the environmental scoping documents that we have that look ahead to what type of permitting might be necessary for the conditions that we are in the area, and also that market analysis that looks at the potential economic development that could come from some type of investment like this. Once that's complete, we should be well on our way to kicking off that service development plan that I mentioned earlier. So the Boston and Albany corridor, which is the rail line that goes right through Palmer, it is accepted into FRA, Federal Railroad Administration, to their corridor ID program. So this multi-step program, the next step is the service development plan. We were awarded $3.5 million to start the service development plan. And at a high level, what that plan does is it establishes what we believe the frequency of service, so how many trains, how many trips a day should be operating between Boston and Albany. And it makes and we identify what capital projects do we need to get to that level of service. So to do this type of things, like, so if we want a certain number of round trips, we might need to have additional track, double track where it's currently single track, or curve modifications to get us to that, the travel times that we want to achieve. So by increasing the travel time or decreasing the travel time. So we're going to incorporate this station into that service development plan. One component of a service development plan is to look at potential stations. So we are far ahead of the game. And the fortunate aspect of being a part of this Corridor ID program already is that this multi-step program anticipates once we finish the plan, then a subsequent federal award will come to do the preliminary engineering and the environmental review. And once that's complete, those capital projects are eligible for a dedicated pool of federal funds. So we feel optimism right now because there is an implementation strategy that's already in place that could bring these necessary resources. It's just a matter of following through these predetermined steps. So at this point, I'm going to turn things back over to Nancy, and we're going to give opportunity for a question, comments, and answers. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move the microphones so that everyone can reach them. For those who came in late, I just want to explain that I do have a list of about 7 names, people who signed up to talk or make comments, so I will call them in the order in which they signed up first. And after that, if there are people who didn't sign up but who would like to ask a question and make a statement, you can raise your hand and I will ask you to come up to the microphone. We are asking you to speak for 3 minutes. We have a timer, it will set it when you start speaking, and then when there's 1 minute left, it turns red, and then at the end, it has a little, beep, 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 right? Just that horrible sound of waking you up in the morning. But anyway, and the purpose of that is to let as many people as possible have a role in this conversation. And if you run out of time and you are desperate to tell us something else, when everyone else has had a chance to speak, you can line up again and you can speak for another 3 minutes. But, 3 minutes is a lot. So think of it that way. And I hope if you have questions, Andy and Natasha are here to answer them. Brad's here for the community. And I think there's been a lot of information presented so that you may have questions. But let's get started. Okay, I think it's Rob Kusner, K-U-S-N-E-R. No, Rob, it would be better for us if you left it on there.
Well, it's a little low for me.
All right, you can't shrink, huh?
No. So, would you mind actually giving me a 30-second warning also?
When you're...
Oh, you have a timer, great.
Yes, right.
Anyway.
It'll be red by then. You'll know you're in trouble.
Thanks. Yeah, good evening. Rob Kusner. I teach at UMass Amherst. I've also served in government up in Amherst.
Rob, can you speak into it a little more? I don't think anyone can hear you.
Yeah, good evening. Rob Kusner. I teach math at UMass Amherst. I've also served in Amherst government for many years. And in fact, many things are involved with transportation. I'm wearing a T-shirt that isn't quite the up-to-date one, but there's another railroad that used to pass very close to us here, the Mass Central Railroad, which is now on the way to becoming the Mass Central Rail Trail. Palmer is actually the closest potentially active railway stop to that, and I think one of the opportunities that you guys will have in Palmer is people who will bicycle along the Mass Central Rail Trail and then want to return perhaps to other parts of the world on this thing. So anyway, that's just a preface to the thoughts. I teach at UMass. I'm very well aware of the size of the potential ridership of railroads through Palmer, and Palmer would be in some ways the most convenient way for most UMass students who hail from the Boston area. A large, at least plurality do. And of course, faculty, we try to stay out of Boston when we can, but sometimes we have to go there too and do other things there. I think the estimates on ridership, I hope, are very low estimates. I hope someday you'll have 20,000 people a week riding it. Maybe that's a little optimistic, but with that said, I want to point out something that's fortunate. It's a nice design. It's a little bit far from another mode of transportation between Amherst and here, but it's no longer a passenger line. It's the north-south line that obviously passes through the diamond near the existing station. I don't remember how far this is, but it's going to be a challenge to get from there to here unless you're quick. I'm still pretty quick at 65, but I hope that connection will be kept in mind. A couple of quick comments, because I see I'm down to the last 45 seconds. Either the people are skinnier than I am, but I think those platform canopies should be a little bit wider. And as a cyclist, I did drive here, but as a cyclist, covered bicycle parking, in fact, enclosed parking is the standard all around the world. And I travel internationally. In Germany, you need about 10,000 spaces for bikes at stations like this. So maybe that will avoid having to create extra parking. Anyway, I'm glad you're getting this far. As I said, much wider canopies are needed. Some shelter, better if there's no building, you need some shelter. We do live in a northern climate, and having covered bike parking really will make a difference. People will want to use it. Thank you.
Thank you for winding up quickly. Natasha, is that actually wider than it looks, the canopy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look a little,
Yeah, the canopies were modeled the best that they could be based on the kind of the tools that we use for some of these rendered perspectives. They will be certainly to standard, but if there is an opportunity to widen them even more, that could be incorporated into design.
If I may take the privilege, just unused bike canopies can be used by humans and vice versa. So I think you could integrate it better. That graphic is tragic.
You're going to put me in trouble if you keep talking, so thank you very much.
Someone else.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
And Mr. Kuzer, I just want to respond to one part about the ridership estimates. And the ridership estimates we make are based on the best information that we have at the time. But I will point out that along our knowledge corridor stations between Springfield, Holyoke, Northampton, Greenfield, we are far outpacing any ridership projections than were done back in 2014. So there's a lot of demand for intercity rail out in Western Massachusetts, and that's really driving a lot of our intention for West East Rail and the Compass Rail program in general.
Thank you. Next, Donald, I think it's Blaise, B-L-A-I-S?
You got it. Right here.
Oh,
Yep.
great. You knew your number two.
A lot of people don't pronounce my last name right the first
Okay.
time, so great
Oh, I get
job.
an A today. Okay, all right.
So thank you. Good evening. My name's Donald Blaise Jr. I'm a former town councilor, current chairman of the Palmer Conservation Commission, although I'm not here tonight in that capacity. I just wanted to first thank our steering committee and all you involved in putting this presentation together. I was an advocate for this project going back to when I was on the town council. That was back to 2014, 2015. Me, Ben Hood, and Ann, we all went to the legislature. We advocated for this project. So to see it at this point right now is very exciting. I think this is going to be a great economic benefit for the town, for the region, and that's something that I've stressed from the very beginning, that this has to be both for Palmer but also for the region. Otherwise it won't work. So I'm glad to see that all that has been put together in it. As for the renderings, tonight's the first time I'm seeing it. I like what I'm seeing. So again, as an early advocate, I completely support what you're presenting, and I think it'll be great for the town and again for the region, because we've been struggling for too long, and I think this is an opportunity for us to turn that around. And I'm not saying this is going to turn it all around, but this is a first step in getting us on that road to where we can finally see some growth, whereas the rest of the region has been growing. We've been lagging behind, and I think this will finally get us going on that road. So I don't have much more to say on that. So again, to everyone who's been putting this together, you've done a great job, and thank you. And I will be there when it's opened in a couple years. So that's what I wanted to say, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. You beat the clock. Thank you. Bernie Fontaine?
Thank you. So when the screen turns red, I have 1 minute left?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Bernie Fontaine, I was born in this town in 1951. Been here since then, and I'll be here for the rest of my life too, I hope. I think sensible, intelligent people who care about getting things right learn from their mistakes. And those who are all of that, and lucky too, learn from other people's mistakes. That said, I give you Windsor, Connecticut. Now, I think this project is going to have minimal impact for the town of Palmer where it's sited. I think it belongs downtown. Also, I think referring to it as a train station is a misnomer. For a schmuck like me, it looks simply like a train stop with a restroom built on the edge of the parking lot. To me, a train station is a building like we already have downtown Palmer, which served passenger rail service for, I don't know, 100 years. And I would say, if you can't get it downtown, as far as this resident is concerned, put it in Wilbraham or put it in Brimfield. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bonnie Rathbone? You answered all my questions, so I don't need to. Okay, all right, thank you. Blake Lamoth?
All right, well, I guess this time I got the mic. Last time I didn't have the chance to have the mic. So what I'd like to say is the Central Corridor Passenger Rail Coalition here was established about 10 years ago, and it's actively seeking a revamp on this whole project. And the reason we're looking for that is we weren't treated fairly by Mass DOT when it came to the vetting process. The steering committee not once met with me, a major stakeholder here, so I can't give the steering committee any credit at all, as far as I'm concerned. Natasha, she's a good salesperson. She probably works well selling cars. But what I see here is I see an opportunity.
I'm sorry, could you back off the mic a little?
Okay, I see an opportunity here that we're missing. And what we're missing is the availability. We have a railroad, the G&W, that's willing to do passenger service. We have 56 towns signed up along the Central Corridor line that were totally ignored by Mass DOT, and Andy Kozak as well, and Natasha. Those things were never discussed. We are in the process now of probably filing a lawsuit. We've given them the chance to talk to us finally, and we had to do this, not something we wanted to do, but we had to do it. The station is an excellent asset to this community. It's being overlooked, whether it's at the station or it's at the highway department, it really wouldn't bother me. But we need to connect to that north-south location no matter what. That's going to be imperative to making our town grow and for us to prosper here. I haven't even heard who's getting any parking fees for these cars here. Now, we're building an 800-foot platform to park 54 cars. So when you really think about this, the planning part of this has been completely ignored. The Central Corridor Passenger Rail Coalition was not invited to one meeting at all, and it's pretty sad. All this stuff was done behind the scenes. The planning process, probably one of the poorest planning processes I've ever seen any town do. And the rights for people here need to be more taken a look at. Now, what I'd like to do is, I probably have a little time left here, but there was a study done in 2017. Now, It has to do with the Central Corridor line. And it represents what it says: the state agencies and departments should continue to evaluate public support relative to furtherance of service and include any statewide passenger and freight rail planning efforts.
Can you wrap up, please?
What?
Can you wrap up, please?
Can I what?
Wrap up, finish.
Well, wait a second. Did it just go off?
Your time is up.
All right, I'm going to finish in a second here, okay? It's not like you got a whole list of people ahead of me. So let me talk about, you interrupted me.
You can come back.
I'm going to finish. In order to prioritize passenger rail service along the Central Corridor line relative to other competing rail needs. Okay, how about we take a look at that? 2017.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe the next one is Scarlett Lamothe.
Hi. As everyone all knows, it's been across the news about the filed lawsuit with Mass DOT. And I just want to say that we wouldn't be here today talking about this or filing if it wasn't true. There's been a Transparency Act that has not gone through. And yes, we have had meetings with Mass DOT and Monica Tibbetts after the fact that the site selection was off. There was no prior knowledge. I do have copies available of the letter, and it's a lot to explain all in 3 minutes, and it's actually a 9-page letter to the state itself, because there is a lot of information that has gone back and forth. And you can say what you would like about our efforts for the Palmer Historic Station. Yes, it is my family's business that's there, but I will say yet again, this is not a project just about Palmer. And I know we are all town residents, but it's a lot bigger than just you folks here today. It's about our entire region and the connection. You call this compass rail. This is just east-west. You're missing the entire compass. The north-south line, which has been a project and $30 million along the north-south passenger line, it's there. The passenger service will be ready to go if east-west is connecting there as well. You're missing UMass Amherst. You're missing Storrs, Connecticut, which occupies Yukon. You are guessing the ridership to be under 20,000 people. Well, it will be less because you're not having that connection of north-south. If you want it to succeed, you need to have the demand to the area as well. So that'll bring more ridership. But basic economics also say is you need supply and you need demand. This train stop is in an industrial area, suburb. If I'm not from Palmer, I'm from Boston, and I stop by the Palmer stop and I see a parking lot, I'm not going to be getting off. I don't know what Palmer is. It has no access walking ability to downtown. It's some green grass and some cars. And Bernie mentioned the Windsor Locks location. This is exactly what was presented for Windsor Locks. And 10 years later, they have moved it back to the downtown. So I can just say history repeats itself. Do your research. No basic economics. That's all I can say. It's just a check off the box for Mass DOT in the state. And again, it's about Eastern Mass, not about Western Mass and the whole region. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Fred Giuliani. I'm a little worried about that cord, so just be careful when you're standing there, please. Yeah, if you move it, thanks, that would be great, thank you. Oh,
Now I see how many people are here. If you're all as interested as you appear to be, you must be concerned about the benefit this project is going to have for the town itself. In my opinion, it has absolutely going to make no contribution at all to economic development, other than, I did write something down, other than an entrepreneur that's going to open a porta potty service on the property. That's supposed to be funny. I have some questions and some comments. The question I have is that the Springfield train station was renovated recently within the past 10 years, and I'm wondering if it's true that the estimated ridership, if the present-day ridership exceeds the estimated ridership, and why we don't think that's going to happen here. And were Palmer's estimated ridership numbers the numbers that the legislators saw that approved this project? Are they really going to spend this kind of money for 50 people a day? And the estimated ridership that we're looking at, is that for 2030, 2040, 2050?
why don't you ask all your questions and then?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Wait, no. I guess my biggest question is, well, two things. At the beginning of your presentation, you had a list of all the people in town that you have been in contact with, that you have worked with to get this project going. Well, then why is it when I ask the town manager questions, he doesn't have any answers? He says to ask the DOT. Nobody has been working with the DOT or VHB that I can see. Nobody here has any information. Another question I have is that, why wasn't this information presented to the town before our meeting so we could come in here informed and have some real questions instead of these scribbled things that I wrote down? Why didn't we get a chance to sit down in our own little round tables and come up with our own ideas? Why? This is the second time you've done this to us. You come into town and boom, you throw this at us. It's not going to work. We don't want that. We want to be informed. We want to take part of it. And my last question is going to be, this one's serious. I'm mostly concerned about a traffic study and why a traffic study has not been done. Does that mean I'm finished or I have a minute?
That means you're finished.
Let me just hit you with
Finish
one.
your question, go ahead.
One question. Why do you think it's okay to build a rail station across a bridge that has limited sight distance when you know that people rushing to the train station are going to rush over that bridge and crash? And when that happens, everybody misses the train. Route 32 is going to be blocked. So everybody's going to take a right coming out of the rail station, and they're all going to wait at the stoplight on Thorndike Street. You don't know, but you know.
Okay,
and
so we'll answer as many of those questions as we can.
You're going to block the fire station, and you're going to block you're going to block the second major artery going into Munson. And so they'll both be blocked.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Somebody-
Give me my mic.
Yep.
Mr. Giuliani, thank you for your comments. I tried to do my best to write down the majority of your questions, and I'll try to respond to them. So beginning with ridership, you were asking about Springfield projections versus existing. Personally, I don't know. I mean, Springfield has had ongoing ridership for decades, so I'm not sure in this particular. That was when the renovations were occurring.
2017.
Yeah, I mean, Springfield had ridership before 2017.
It was renovated.
Right. So I'm not sure if projections were made based on the particular renovation itself, but I will say, as I mentioned to Mr. Kuzner, that along the Knowledge Corridor, those stations that are currently active, ridership projections were made back in 2014-ish, before the state renovated the line, the 50-mile line, and added the stations in Northampton, Greenfield, and ridership is very much exceeding expectations right now. And that's a national trend right now. Across, Amtrak had its best, fiscal '24 was its best year on record. So intercity rail in particular is showing a lot of growth. So it's possible we're being too conservative here, but we're using the information that we have. This is the best we can do. You had a question on timing ridership. So what we tried to do when we looked at that, and Amtrak actually prepared these ridership numbers for us using their national models. The 2 round trips, we're looking out towards the early 2030s. And once we get up to 5 round trips, that estimate of around 18,000 daily trips, that was looking out to 2045. You had asked a question whether legislators looked at ridership before funding the study. No, that's a part of this study. So they provided state funding for this particular study to find out the feasibility. And that's what we're doing now, is we're coming up with a concept. We're looking at some of the supporting documentations, and we're at that inflection point where we decide, is this station to move forward? So that's the end product, is giving both the public and legislators that product that they can evaluate and make their determinations on. You asked about town manager deflecting to DOT. I mean, that's at my request. I mean, MassDOT owns this project. We are getting a lot of great guidance here from town staff and from the steering committee. But for certain, any questions like pertaining to traffic studies, that has to come to DOT, because these are our products that we're developing, and we need to be responsible for them. And as far as for providing information before a meeting, I understand what you're saying, but this is a typical process where I think a lot of communication gets lost if you just put documents on the internet before having a chance to explain them. But I will give you my personal offer, and I'm going to give you a card that we can dig into these details together as this month progresses. So I'm going to find you once this Q&A is over. And I'll give Natasha a chance to talk about the form of what that traffic study might look like, and how we made some of this initial analyses that was shared tonight, but what an end product might look like for a traffic impact analysis.
So there's a lot more to evaluate in the form of traffic impact and access study. The version of that evaluation that was developed during the conceptual design was to assess the volume of traffic that we need to prepare for in the context of the roadway network that would be accessing our station site. And as I mentioned in the early statement about the information that develops our design, that assessment looked at the most conservative view of how much our traffic, the station traffic, could potentially impact the most congested periods within the town of Palmer, whether it's in the AM when a good number of people are going to school and work, or it's in the PM when people are returning from both. So that perspective was definitely laid into the network, the traffic network, to understand how much of our traffic was going to layer into pre-existing problems or conditions. And what we found is that that the level of service that we are expecting and the number of riders that would be driving on the roadways, that our station would not have an impact there. That is still a very conservative assessment. We don't actually expect our trains to be stopping in the most congested periods within the town. So when that service is developed and when those station stops are scheduled, we'll have a better sense for what period we need to analyze. That schedule hasn't yet been developed, so we can't pinpoint it to a specific time of day. But as we are evaluating it for the worst possible condition, that at least what you're going to be able to see in the traffic report that's going to be rolled out with the conceptual design, that information is going to highlight that.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there anyone who has not spoken who would like to speak? Okay, so the lady in the, I think, orange sweater, right there? Yeah? No, lady in the back. Same rules, I'm afraid. This one yours?
Thanks.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Ann Miller. I'm a co-founder of Citizens for Palmer Rail Stop. We've pushed this project for 10 years, initially working with the family that runs the Steaming Tender restaurant. We have mostly run it independently of them for 10 years. We strongly support MassDOT's effort, given the current funding environment. The fact that this project continues to move forward, I think, is a huge win for Palmer, and people should remember that. Many of the people here speaking against it, it should be noted, including the last gentleman, these are people who represent private interests in the town. They're upset that they were not part of the process, but that does not mean that the town was not represented. They were not. You know, the thing is, and they may not have been in the initial committee, but that doesn't mean that members of the town were not. I also think it's important to note that many of them are basically anti-government, and they would still like the government to spend money to put a train stop at their specific location to benefit their businesses. So I think we have to put this in perspective, folks. You know, our group represents people from Warren, from Munson, from, Amherst, and these people have wanted this train stop for a long time. I grant there were previous efforts for it. We can't take all the credit. The real credit belongs to all the people in Palmer who supported us, who came to the state meetings, who, wrote letters. We had people writing letters on numerous occasions, and when we asked people to, they would do it. And I think it would be a terrible shame if we didn't get this because a few people feel it's not where they want it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think there was a gentleman, blue shirt. Not yet.
Hi, my name's Ken Dolan Del Vecchio, and I'm a 13-year Palmer resident. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for the work you've done, and all in the community who have worked so hard to move this forward. And I'll say that I love the Steaming Tender. I've eaten many Thanksgivings there. It's a wonderful place. And when we started talking about having a train stop, I thought, of course it's going to be there, because that makes a lot of sense. But then when you did the analysis and looked at all of the complexities of putting this project together, it became clear to me that, well, you folks know what you're doing. This is your work. This is what you do. And so it's important, I think, for us to just accept that that didn't turn out in this day and age to be the best location for the train stop. And so I'm thrilled that it's moving forward. I think it's going to be a huge benefit for the community. And I'm sad for the people who own the Steaming Tender, because I know that it would have been wonderful to have the train stop there. But we can't always get what we want. And so I'm glad that it's moving forward. I hope that it does move forward and moves to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. This gentleman right here. If you are interested, you could line up or come sit in the front to save time. So you're right there. So.
Good evening.
Good
My name
evening.
is Paul Wisniewski, and I'm an 87-year-old resident longtime resident of Palmer. One of the primary beneficiaries of this having it stop in Palmer, in my mind, are the thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people who currently live in Hopkinton, Needham, Framingham, but there's no affordable housing. They will flock to Palmer. So I hope your 20,000 number and you're putting us in the Division 4 number should look at the possibility, it's a tough study, I know, of the people who might change their location in order to get an affordable home, and at the same time, because of the working conditions in many Boston area, they can work out of their home 1 or 2 days a week. That study, I think, will show many more than 20,000. And my question is, if we go from a Division 3, or whatever you said, Division 4, to a Division 3, are there additional benefits in terms of the equipment that go in a new station?
Thank you for that question, and I don't have the full list of additional amenities that Amtrak recommends for a Category 3 station as opposed to a Category 4. I do know for one, it is definitely a facility that provides restrooms. So it's because we were on that line of we are really close to being above 20,000. We were anticipating wanting that and providing a not to preclude connection to that type of facility should we grow into a Category 3. And that might still be an implementation that happens for the Category 4. There's a list of other amenities that come recommended, and this is Amtrak's guideline. It's not a criteria, so we don't have to adhere to it. It's a standard practice for what you do for a certain range of ridership. But we can share that, and it's certainly part of the documentation. I just, off the top of my head, I didn't have that ready to answer for all the elements.
Thank you. And I do understand the complexity and difficulty of getting a study that says, how many of you 3.5 million people will move to Palmer when there's a station because you can't afford your mortgage or you have to leave your job?
Yeah, and just to speak to that particular point, that this model is based on existing demand generators, so whether it's population or employment, and it does not take into what we refer to as induced demand that comes from like as you described. So it is a conservative estimate what we're presenting here for ridership projections.
This gentleman here. I'll go from side to side, but you all are next if there's no one over here. But there may be. Yes, there is.
Hello, I'm Steve Nowak. I'm a member of the Palmer Historical Commission for like 40 years. Okay. Now, I've got several issues here. First of all, at the original meeting at the Palmer Library, the plans included no bathrooms and no employees. Okay, now, I got a big problem with that. Okay, I don't know about the bathrooms and ADA compliance and all that stuff. Okay, and like no employees. Consider these scenarios. Okay, people coming from Connecticut or wherever to Palmer to take a train. They've got no bathroom facilities. They've got no one to talk to on how to buy tickets or how to make connections or whatever. Okay, so I'm wondering if you guys would look at that issue. Okay, especially ADA compliance. Okay, or possibly consider at least an information kiosk. Okay, where people could find out what trains and schedules and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of people don't don't do computers and all that stuff. Okay. Another big problem with me is at that meeting in Palmer, several commission members, we couldn't speak, but we did fill out forms saying that Palmer is known as the town of 7 railroads. We suggested that signage or whatever would be included in your plans. That's an easy fix. I mean, okay, your designs said Palmer Station. That's a real easy fix. I would suggest you reconsidering that. Okay, and the north-south connection, okay? What provisions are made to the north-south connection from the Palmer Station? That's, you say, about a mile or whatever. So somebody's transferring, east-west and want to go north-south. I mean, how about a shuttle or something, or even consider the Palmer steaming tender, okay. I'm sorry, what? The trolley? Yeah, or whatever. Okay, possible scenarios. I don't think there was much considered, on these issues. I suggest you consider them.
Okay, thank you.
you.
Thank you. You want to answer? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your comments. I'll try to respond to as many as I jotted down properly. So yeah, so the issue with bathrooms and employees that I tried to address earlier, it's sometimes with infrastructure, like the capital piece is kind of like the easier piece because you make your one-time investment and then you have your maintenance. But the thing is, once you start introducing something like a bathrooms or indoor waiting facilities, then now you're talking about operational expenses. And that's sometimes one of the harder things to budget in the long term. And also, it's just something that MassDOT itself doesn't have much of a presence in Palmer to provide that ongoing operational assistance. So we show the station not to preclude it because there are options, there are configurations that have worked in the past. There's areas where like an adjacent art gallery stays open and you can use the bathroom in there. There's other areas that like a transit center is a good example from these Compass Rail stations. So opportunities exist, but we have not, we cannot be definitive at this point. ADA compliance, that one's pretty easy. This station is fully ADA compliant, a fully accessible station. And that was a major priority for this project. I think info kiosk is a great idea. It's hard to describe sometimes at this conceptual level, things can change. This is like another term for this is like a 10% design. And the next level that we bring this to would be an opportunity to start looking at kiosk placements because I think you're absolutely right. That's incredibly important. People want to be able to see a schedule and they want some information. How do you pay? Things like that. So I think a kiosk is a great addition and I think we should find a way to incorporate that. Along with the town of 7 railroads, that's another one of those things that a little further in a design process, you start thinking about what the signage actually looks like and what some of the context we look. So I think that's a great addition. We'll take that feedback and document it. And when we get to that point, should we get to that point, we'll revisit. And as far as the north-south connection, I'm not sure if you were just like generally meaning traveling within the north, going north and south, or specifically a north-south train connection. I'm sorry?
Yes, a connection from Palmer Station to the north-south.
All right, so yeah, so we did have some, and I can mention they had some preliminary discussions with the bus operator, PVTA. They talked about, this is in their service area. It would be a very natural fit to serve the station, whether it's reorganizing one of their routes or extending one of their routes right now that goes from Amherstown to Belchertown. One of these configurations would make a lot of sense for them. Right now, PVTA operates between UMass to Worcester to the MBTA station, and they get a lot of demand, particularly around those Friday nights for long weekends or any kind of vacation times where there's a big exodus of students or influx on the same time. So they anticipate that there would be something similar in Palmer, as this would be a very convenient option and a quicker bus ride from the university area. Thanks again.
This gentleman here, there's two in a row, so.
I'm Ben Hood, and I actually was one of the members of the steering committee representing the Palmer Redevelopment Authority. And I'd just like to say that I think that when Paul talked about people coming out here for housing, that's always been something that we assumed would happen, is that a town that hasn't grown for many, many decades, maybe 150 years, would actually start to grow again. And it would not be 12,000 people in Palmer or, frankly, small towns around. Munson is on the verge of a rather large development at the former Munson Developmental Center. And the Palmer Redevelopment Authority is talking to the same developer, the West Mass Regional Development Corporation, about what to do with our property on Main Street in Palmer. And these are things that sit there with nothing on them and buildings falling down for decades. And I think everything will change rather dramatically, but it will take time. And you can't expect it to just happen. I think the ridership estimates are way low, but this is what MassDOT is coming up with for ridership estimates. As long as MassDOT is willing to make the investment and create the station, I think we will find out what happened on the CT rail, what happened up the valley with the Valley Flyer. You will find out that actually the estimates are low and we need a lot more capacity, more trains, and of course, as the area grows, there could be population shifts. And if you look at other towns that are about the same distance outside Boston that are on commuter rail, we're not going to be on commuter rail. But it's going to feel like it for some people who move out here because we're not that far out compared to people living in Rhode Island and New Hampshire who are served by MassDOT, and they don't even live in our state. So we are in Massachusetts, we're underserved, and thanks to MassDOT, they're looking at us now. And so if we get the service from MassDOT, we will actually probably rise to that level that you have in, say, Rhode Island and New Hampshire with getting people down to Boston and back to your towns. And of course, the town will grow. There will be development in the town. There will be restaurants, more than we have now. There will be shopping opportunities. And all of this is possible, not because we're doing it all ourselves, but because we're part of something much bigger, statewide. We can't really expect it to be all on our own terms, but we need it to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carrie Saldo. I've lived in town since 2018. I appreciate you coming here tonight to share this information. At the risk of subjecting us all to a math lesson that we don't care to hear, I am curious, could you speak to how you arrived at the ridership numbers? Appreciate what you've said, that they're perhaps a bit conservative, but given the town population is approximately 12,000, UMass Amherst student population about 30,000 roughly, 18,000 does seem low. So could you talk just a bit about how you arrived at ridership?
Sure, and so when we do these ridership projections, and in this case, we use Amtrak modeling. Amtrak is the proposed operator of these services for West East Rail. We use their models, which take into account population, like based on census blocks, that take into account other generators like universities or employment centers, and they try to calibrate that together along with existing travel patterns. That said, it's a fuzzy process. A lot of people refer to the ridership projections as more of an art than a science, particularly when you're looking at something like a university area. That makes things very difficult because all those students are not accounted for as residents when you look at the annual census estimates. So it's fuzzy. It's what we believe to be conservative, but it takes into account a lot of different factors, such as like how long is the trip? How does that compare to a ride in a vehicle? And how are people going to make that decision? If there's more stops, it slows down the trip. And does that mean people are going to get off and get into their car, or people downstream? And there's also some aspect of estimates for what fares might be, and that can also push people towards a vehicle too when you try to account for the cost of gas and tolls and those types of things. So these are all elements that go into this grander model, but this is a model that's calibrated on all of Amtrak's routes nationwide, and so there's some level of accuracy. I think it's the best that we have to work with, we'll see where it goes from here. But as I explained before, things are going really well in Western Mass for ridership growth. So I think we have reason to look glass half full with any of these estimates that are coming out.
Gentleman in the navy shirt, right?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Peterzak. I'm a conductor engineer for CSX. I'm also president and local chairman for Smart TD Local 352 in West Springfield. Big question I got is the proposed location would essentially eliminate track 4 in Palmer for CSX's operation. Like to know who you've been in contact with CSX, if it's been somebody locally, if it's been somebody in Jacksonville, because I'd love to dive deeper into that, because track 4 can be huge. We interchange with 2 different railroads in Palmer Yard, New England Central, Mass Central. Their traffic explodes at times, and track 4 is absolutely essential. So yeah, that's my questions. I'd really like to know who you've discussed all that with. Thank you.
Sure. So we have had some preliminary discussions with CSX on this, and one of that is. Excuse me? Geez. Are you asking me because you distrust the answer? Honestly, I'm not going to share any particular names because I'm not looking to have any particular person get extra contact that there is unsolicited right now. This is a MassDOT project. It's not a CSX project, but we do deal with CSX on a weekly basis, more than a weekly basis, because we have a lot of active projects going together with CSX right now. So some of the feedback that we have is informal based on some of those conversations, and we have shared this concept with CSX, not seeking approval, but what we're doing is showing to them we have what could work. This is a feasible concept. And we want to let you know that we're going to show the public something that's on your property. As you say, the station siding, that orange station siding that Natasha was pointing out, it is active rail storage for CSX. And so for any sort of way for this to move forward, it would need to get CSX approval, regardless of that siding or not. And potentially in these cases, there's mitigation measures that can go into place to find extra capacity somewhere else on the line to make sure that CSX is made whole.
I would ask everyone to be respectful. If you've had an opportunity to talk, please don't shout out when someone else is speaking. Think I'm over here.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Green. I own the property at 1152 South Main, which is directly across from that. My concerns are you're asking to add buses and more lighting. I moved out here to get away from city life. And now I'm looking at, I potentially going to have blinding lights shining towards my house. We're adding buses. We're adding more carbon monoxide in my neighborhood. We already have a lot of traffic that slows down for Bell Simmons, for Sanderson McLeod, for people making the left turn to go up and over the tracks, or to head at points south into Munson and points beyond. I'm concerned of the health risk to me and my family coming down the road with adding all this extra traffic onto South Main Street. I see the benefits for the town. The pictures are beautiful, but this is literally looking out my bedroom window, looking out my living room window. Just hoping that things, it's not just going to be a waste of this. Otherwise, I may have not moved to town a couple of years ago when I bought my home. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I know there wasn't a question, but I can briefly respond that I appreciate your concerns and thank you for sharing that. Once this project, or if it was to move on to the next stage, there are more intensive environmental review processes that look at exactly these types of things, like these noise and vibration assessments that are required under federal law, assuming we're using some federal funds. So there is more opportunity to look at potential impacts to abutting neighbors, and those will be taken seriously.
Yes, sir. No, just gentleman behind you, yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for your time coming out here tonight. My name is Daniel Cadigan. I'm a locomotive engineer on the commuter rail, 28 years of service. I'm also the political director for the Teamsters Rail Conference. I represent the engineers that would run this regardless if it was a commuter rail extension or Amtrak. I just wanted to go through a couple quick questions and then I'll just give you a chance to answer them. Is the general idea of this station to feed into Boston? Is that the main projection here? Do you have an estimated trip time from Palmer into Boston? The frequency, you mentioned that there would possibly be 2 round trips and up to maybe 5. I question that because if Amtrak is the proposed service provider, right now they run 1 outbound to Albany and 1 inbound to Albany, and historically that's been that way for my entire career, almost 30 years. I don't see Amtrak adding 4 more round trips to Albany because they haven't done it in almost 30 years since I've been on the railroad. I don't think they're adding 4 round trips because of the Palmer station. So that leads into my next question. Is there a proposed feeder service into the commuter rail in Worcester? And I would caution that because people don't want to get on one train, go 45 minutes, get off, wait 10 minutes, get on another train and go another 45 miles to the tune of almost 90 more minutes. That puts my estimate roughly with a transfer at about 2 hours and 40 to 2 hours and 50 minutes from here to Boston, which makes it really a non-starter for most people. And is Amtrak the only provider that you're considering at this time, or is there any consideration of extending the commuter rail out from Worcester this direction as a termination point possibly? And that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gagnon. So as far as a feeder into Boston, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily characterize the service as that. So the major services that we're looking at right now is this inland route, which is the Boston to Springfield down to New Haven. And really how that's gonna literally operate is right now we already have service between New Haven and Springfield. We're going to pick a couple of those trips to extend to Boston. And so and then the second route we're talking about is a Boston to Albany service. So I know you referenced the 1 daily round trip right now, Boston to Albany. So to distinguish that a little bit, Amtrak has their core services. They have their Northeast Corridor services, and then they have their long distance route. And the Lakeshore Limited between Boston and Albany and then all the way out to Chicago, that's part of their long distance services. That's Amtrak by themselves. They pay their operating costs, they collect all the revenues, and they operate independently from the Commonwealth. These services that we're talking about, this is a part of the state-supported route network, so the states pay the full cost. So some of those that go from New Haven to Springfield or New Haven up to Greenfield, the states, Connecticut and Massachusetts, we both pay a prorated component of that service. And so the West East Rail, these pieces between Boston and Albany, the Amtrak is the anticipated operator, and we would be paying the full cost of that service. And taking the full revenue as well. So we pay the net cost of service. So just going to go back to a few of your other questions. So the frequency of 2 round trips. So that's the current inland route that we have. We have that $108 million federal grant that I mentioned, which is really to put that service on the West East Corridor, we need to make room for ourselves. CSX zone, so between Springfield and Worcester with that $108 million plus our match, it's a $135 million project, we're gonna build the infrastructure projects like additional double track areas that will allow the passenger rails to operate without impacting freight services. So those 2 round trips are, that's a given. That's our commitment for accepting these federal funds. That's happening by 2030. The 5 round trips, that's more of an estimate right now, and that's really subject to that service development plan I mentioned, but that's our assumptions based on potential demand that we might have at the appropriate level of service. And that's 5 round trips between Boston to Springfield. Some of those then cut south to New Haven. The other 2 of them extend out to Albany. So a feeder service to Worcester, that's not being contemplated right now. These are through trips to Boston. And if anything, that these turn into direct express trips, Worcester to Boston. Much like the Lakeshore Limited that recently started allowing people to board inbound trips at Worcester into Boston. And I believe you had a question on travel time. You know what, I don't have any existing travel time. So I will say, so right now, Boston to Springfield is about 2 hours, 40 minutes on Amtrak. With the improvements that we're doing through the Inland Route project, we think we can get that down to 2:10, maybe a little bit less. So a little over 2 hours for Boston to Springfield. So Palmer being a little closer to Springfield than to Worcester, it's a sub 2 hour time. I don't have the exact numbers right now. Did that cover most of your questions? Yeah. All right, thank you much. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Kusner wants to get back up. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who'd like to get up? All right, gentlemen there, and on the far side. Then we have a few minutes left, and we'll have to wind up pretty soon.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Cohan. My wife and I just moved into Palmer just a few months ago, and then we hear about this. And I want to appreciate everybody's concern that are in this room and what you've brought to the table. When we have a project, we're always looking at when, where, how, and why. Okay? You've really started to address those questions, and you're doing it very, very well. Then I look at the people in this room who are very concerned one way or another. So I've got a question for the room. May I?
Yes, it'll be hard for them all to answer, but go for it.
How many people in this room agree to have this particular rail stop in Palmer, whether it be at the tender, whether it be here, but in this general area? May I see hands approval of a stop in Palmer? Right. So we all agree. We all agree we should have one, right? How do we ensure that our needs work with this company? And that's what I'd like to see escalate in the near future.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, he just asked.
No, he did not. Sir, would you please be silent? You are being unacceptably rude.
In order to make Palmer great again. That's how you do it.
There was someone over here. Yes. I don't really appreciate people talking out of turn. It's rude to everyone in the audience.
Quick question, how much is the parking gonna be? Is there gonna be overnight parking? And how much is the train ticket gonna be? Because I hate it when I wanna take a train and it's just too expensive, so I just drive to the place.
So it is really early to be making any of these assumptions. So there's no estimate for parking fees right now. Just because we're not at that stage yet. We don't know how it would be managed and who would even own the parking lot. And there's a lot of different models for parking. Like, for example, if you look at Northampton Station, MassDOT does not have a parking lot. It's a private operator. The restaurant next door owns that parking lot and collects the fees. So I'm sorry I don't have a great answer for that, but Whether there be overnight parking, I would say yes, because a lot of our trips are multi-day trips for intercity rail. So we would have to anticipate that. And the parking lot sizing also did take that into account, that some of these trips are going to be multiple days. And then same with the fares. It is a little early to make that assumption, but I will say that with state-supported services, there's the state pays the full cost of service, net revenues. So the state has a lot of leeway in deciding on how fares are going to be set, because we're on the hook regardless. So these are policy decisions that we're going to have to make as a state about, balancing the affordability of a price together with the cost of services.
Yeah, you'll probably be the last speaker.
My name's Mike Harris, and I own a few businesses in the area, and one of my businesses is very close to this site, which is good for me, but I don't think it's good for the town. I really think when I first heard about this that it was going to be downtown, and I think it should be downtown. Second of all, we are in New England, and we have snowstorms and rainstorms, and it gets 2 degrees. And if my daughter is getting on a train from in Boston, comes here, and she's waiting for a ride to pick her up, and she gets off at the train, and we're 20 minutes late picking her up, and it's 2 degrees out, or it's snowing, and it's raining. I agree with Bernie where he said it's kind of like a bus stop. It's not a train stop if we don't have a building. I don't know how you can expect people to stay safe, physically safe, without being in a building. So I think we need a building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So what I'm going to say is thank you all very much for coming, and I want to point out the comment forms. You can take one with you if you're too tired or you want to think about what you have to say. And Andy's email address is on here, so you can send him further comments and questions. I really appreciate your patience.
If I could.
Oh, it's okay. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's not on this.
Oh.
The QR code is going to get them there.
Yeah, there is a QR code on the on this form, the comment form. And if you're like my husband, you have no idea what that is, so you can ask us on your way out. But it should take you right to, what should it take you right to?
The project website.
Oh, it would take you right to the project website. And as I said, the presentation will be posted on the project website, so you will be able to see it and review it and see if you have other questions. We greatly appreciate you coming this evening. We appreciate all your comments, and they will be summarized and shared among the team and among MassDOT. So that said, I wish you a lovely October evening. Maybe go watch some baseball. Huh? Thank you.